Hey, budding lawyers, welcome to the podcast. Today we have with us Ms. Bhavna Vishwakarma. Bhavna is a lawyer with deep interest in commercial laws, especially contract drafting, which many people don't like, actually, including me. She has worked with businesses from different sectors like fashion, e-commerce, construction, food delivery, etc. Okay, so let's start a conversation with Bhavna. Hey, Bhavna, what's up?
Hi, all good. We are just, lockdown, working, all these things going on.
Yeah. And I also troubled you a lot with the tripod thing and camera adjustment. So for that.
That's okay. I just got to learn a few different things that I can do to place my camera. That's okay.
The things to learn to become an online lawyer, like Zoom lawyer.
Yeah, great. I learned something new today.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you sound a bit enthusiastic when you talk about startups and all. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about startups, laws, and compliances and related to it. So, Bhavna, actually, I saw a post by you on LinkedIn, which made me consider talking about this in this podcast. Let's start with the topic you covered in that post itself.
Sure. So yeah, when you talk about my enthusiasm towards startups and entrepreneurship, I am generally very interested in businesses and commerce and business management. So a lot of the credit for my interest towards startups goes to my college and my association with startups and founders. And yeah, I keep writing things about startups. I don't know who reads them, but yeah, I just keep posting things. So the post that you just mentioned, I think it was about startups and founders agreement or something, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So in that post, I started with a hook, like we are friends since college. So why do we need a founders agreement? So I come across a lot of founders and entrepreneurs who are friends since college, or they are brothers, relatives, or they have a mutual relationship of trust with each other. So a lot of times they don't consider it important to enter into all these legal documentation, because they just feel that it's going to complicate the things between us, and why do we need it when we all trust each other? But it is extremely important to have a founders agreement and legal documentation between you people, because not just from the perspective of legalities, but also for the perspective of your own understanding and clarity between you. So there are a lot of things that today maybe you'll discuss it, but after 5 years, if in case there is any dispute between you people, you might not be able to remember what was discussed before 5 years. So it's very important to have that kind of clarity, and also have it formally documented to understand the roles and responsibilities between you, the rights and liabilities, and who is going to take care of what, who will have how much share in the company, the equity ownership, the transferability of shares. And also it helps you to foresee situations that are very unfortunate. Like, for example, if one of the partners is willing to leave the organization or leave the business, then what will happen? Or, for example, if the business does not run well, are we allowed, or if any one of us allowed to again try it in the market? Or can we start our own startups along with this startup? So these are some very basic questions that are discussed in the founders agreement, and that is the reason we should definitely have something in place, a founders agreement which specifically talks about these things, like equity distribution, the non-compete or the confidentiality clauses, the vesting related provisions if you have any. So yeah, these are the details that I mentioned in that post.
Okay. Too much of jargon for me. Let's demystify
Okay.
it.
Should I simplify it a bit, like my language and all?
No, 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 no. Let's go ahead. Okay, so let's start from how it all gets started, right? So if two friends think of starting some, like they have some startup idea, as usually people in graduation have, and they want to take it forward. So they think of the startup and all. They watch a lot of TVF series on pictures and all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how is it formed? How is it registered? How to register a startup? Let's start with that.
Okay. So yeah, startups have become like a really big hype these days. And like when you talk about starting a startup, it technically starts when you simply identify a problem in the market and you decide you are going to do something about it. You're going to propose a solution for it, and then you go ahead and proceed with the other things, like you do your market research and you understand your target customers and who are you going to serve and how are you basically going to solve this problem and how you're going to commercialize it. So as soon as you start answering questions like this, you have technically started your startup. But when you talk about registrations, there are different modes of registration. Like you can either go for simply a sole proprietorship, you can register as a partnership or LLP or private limited, OPC. These are different modes of incorporation and they all differ in terms of the tax structure, the mode of incorporation, the governing authorities, the number of compliances that are there. Whenever you want to register your business, you simply can go to a professional, including a CA or a CS, and they take it forward from there. Like they are responsible for submitting all your legal documentation, and they can help you with obtaining your DSCs. And these days, you can even do it sitting at your home. Like you can go to a CA, and the person can help you form the company themselves. A lot of the process has gone online now. So yeah, if you want to register a business, you can simply go to a professional near you and the person will take care of it.
Okay, so you don't even have to go to any office or anyone. You just have to call your CA or CS and things can be done online, everything.
Yeah, the person, the concerned person, the concerned CA or CS, they know what are the things that they can submit online. Like I got my DSC online. So yeah, the verification, everything, it was done online only. And rest of the things, wherever it was required, I just went and submitted the things to my CA, and yeah, he took care of everything.
Cool. So DSC, what is that?
DSC is the digital signature certificate. You need to get a digital signature certificate when you register your company.
Okay. So according to you, at least in initial stages, what are the other compliances apart from registration and all, which every startup must focus on?
So when you are starting a business, like when you're starting a startup, first of all, it is the most important thing to research on the laws that are applicable to your business and understand whether your business is legal or not. Like you should, in the first place, ensure that what you're trying to do is allowed in the laws or not. Like for example, I once met a startup founder, and when I asked him about his business, he told me that he went ahead and told me that बाहर इंडिया के बाहर है ना लैपटॉप्स और आईफोन सस्ते मिलते हैं, तो जब भी लोग इंडिया से जाएंगे तो हम उनको बोलेंगे कि तुम सस्ते में खरीद के लाओ एंड देन वी विल सेल इट हियर इन द चीप प्राइसेस, बट दैट इज नॉट अलाउड. So now, instead of doing everything to build your business and investing your time and energy into it, and later realizing that what you were trying to do is not even legal in India, and maybe you are infringing someone else's intellectual property rights if someone already holds a patent to a technology and you are putting in your efforts and everything to build that technology. So it's not going to work. You will unnecessarily land into costly litigation and lawsuits. So first of all, it's very important to do a research on the laws that are applicable to your business and understand what are the permissions or what are the licenses that you require to do it. For example, every food business in India needs to have a FSSAI license, like the food safety license. And without that, you cannot even operate in the country. So that's the first step. First, do a legal research about what are the laws that are applicable to you, and make sure that you're not violating any of the laws or intellectual property rights of any third party. And secondly, once you have understood the requirements and all, second is to obtain a license. like whatever licenses are applicable, whatever permissions you require, you have to get that licenses or permissions. For example, if you have a shop or if you have an establishment, physical establishment, then you will need a shop and establishment license for your business. And if you do not actually comply with that, it can really lead to a very big problem for you. You can be subject to a legal proceeding also, and it can come down to a situation where you will have to shut down your entire business. So first of all, do a very proper legal research about this. Make sure that you understand your own business requirements first and what are the long-term objectives that you have for your company, and accordingly select a business structure and then register yourself. And apart from that, you should have basic knowledge about the tax laws that are applicable to your business, and how much tax is applicable to you, what all taxes are you subject to. If you are having a factory or something, then you should be aware about the factory related laws. You should be aware about the employment related laws, because obviously you will be hiring people and you will be hiring employees and interns and all these people. So you should have the basic understanding of the employment laws, the labor laws, and you should make efforts to protect your intellectual property, like protect your trademark, protect your business name. If you are building a technology, it is very important to at least start with the process of the patent or whatever intellectual property laws you are subject to. So take care of the intellectual property laws, protect your business, because you don't want that today you're building something and tomorrow someone else gets it registered or someone else gets a patent on it, and then it will be really difficult for you to prove otherwise. And apart from that, I think you should have a very effective contract management system. And with this, I don't mean that you should, all the time hire a lawyer to do everything, because that's not even practical for a small scale startup, because there is always a funds crisis with startups. They are always struggling with funds, especially in case of, a bootstrapped startup. It's very difficult to have a full-time lawyer with yourself, but whatever you're doing, like whatever the inflows and outflows are, you should document it. If you are hiring any employee, then you should at least have a basic documentation about it. You should formally document the kind of things that they're required to do, the compensation, the consideration that you're paying to them, and the non-disclosure kind of clauses should be there, because it's possible that especially in the initial stages when you're building everything, the team has access to a lot of confidential information about your business.
Right.
So share an NDA. You don't want your employee to work with you for a month and then go back to your competitor and share your confidential information with them. So make sure you document things among yourself, amongst the founders, among the third-party vendors and service providers. They also may share a lot of information about you, and if at any point of time they decide to back out, then your entire business, or the process is delayed for no reason. So it's better to keep yourself safe and document things. Like as good as you can do, just document it. And if you are into a very technical business, or if you think you will not be able to document it yourself, it's okay to spend a little bit of money and take help from a professional who can help you with these things. So yeah, these are the basic things that you should take care of.
Okay. So I just wanted to understand if any law student or young lawyer want to practice specifically only in this field, like covering startup laws only and matters related to that, then is that possible? Have you seen lawyers working only exclusively in this field? Can one person build his practice here?
See, a person in a legal field can practice in anything. Like it all depends on the interest of the person. There is nothing stopping you. And when you talk about startup laws, yes, there are people who are very enthusiastic about it. But usually the lawyers who are into the startup field, they usually work in the entire commercial sector.
Yeah,
so they deal not just with startups, they also deal with businesses of all sorts. Because see, startup is just the beginning phase of a company. And if you're working with that startup, and once the startup comes out of the definition of the startup, you cannot stop working for that business, right?
Right.
Now it has become a business, right? So it makes more sense to develop the entire commercial understanding and have a field like that. And mostly people do that only. But yeah, there are firms and there are lawyers who specifically focus on startups also. And if you want, if as a law student or if as a young lawyer you want to build your practice around startups only, nothing is stopping you. You can, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so do you know of any LLM programs which specially focus on corporate laws? Would you suggest any of the courses in India?
Yes, I think most of the national universities and most of the colleges in India, they have corporate law or business law courses in LLM. And you like the NLU Bangalore, NLU Hyderabad, the NLIU Bhopal, all of these universities have corporate law or business law courses as LLM programs. And apart from that, also you have universities like Symbiosis, and you can have Amity College also has a program in
Any personal
LLM.
recommendation?
And, well, I have not done LLM myself, so I don't think I'll have the first-hand experience of explaining that, or I'm not in a position to recommend any of the college. But
Okay.
yeah, you can simply give your CLAT exams, and most of the national universities offer it. So whatever is convenient for you, whichever university you want to opt in, depending on your own interests and liking, you can go ahead and enroll yourself.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how
And
many?
yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Yesterday only, I came across a post by a post on Instagram. It was the Narsi Monji University's
Yeah.
post. Yeah. So they have this course of MBA in law. So it is for the legal professionals and it's for the CAs and CS. So now that will help you to bring that will help you to have more understanding about the laws and the business. So if you don't want to go for an LLM, then you can also go for an MBA. And this course specifically was for lawyers. But if you're an entrepreneur also, and if you are just interested in laws like that, then there are MBA courses also, specially focusing on the business laws and the corporate laws. So even as an entrepreneur, you can have this course. You will have more understanding about the laws and what are the things that are applicable to you. So yeah, these are the other two separate fields. These are not LLM courses like you asked, but yeah, if someone is interested in doing that, these options are also available.
Yeah, right. So these MBAs, like there are many lawyers who are opting for MBAs nowadays. So this was
Yes.
not quite common before.
Nowadays it is starting to get common because there is a lot of scope in corporates for lawyers. And there is this issue with lawyers, that lawyers don't understand businesses, and businesses, they are not, they do not have legal understanding like that. So if you're a lawyer and you decide to go for an MBA program, you can have understanding of both the laws and the business. So it kind of bridges the gap between the two. And you have, even as an HR, you can have more idea about the employment related laws, the labor related laws. So that somehow benefits the companies and the corporates that are working, and it helps the person to provide a more detailed thing in the field that they're working in.
So how many years are you practicing now? For how many years?
Don't ask me that. I am a very young lawyer. I graduated in 2020, although I started working when I was in my college itself. So I started working when I was in, I think, second year or something. So I started freelancing the legal documentation. I used to make these policies and all for businesses. And then gradually I started drafting contracts and NDAs and these basic things. And with practice, like when I was in my fourth year or fifth year, I formally started freelancing the contract drafting part. And yeah, that is giving me a good experience and understanding about this. And I graduated recently. I graduated in 2020. amidst the lockdown.
So technically, you have around 2 to 3 years of experience, though you graduated just in 2020, right? We can see that.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is necessary. So that's why I always recommend students to start working in your
Yeah.
school days itself. No matter if you're not getting paid anything, you'll get a lot of experience. And that will count later.
I remember the first company that I worked for. They gave me 8,000 rupees, and in 8,000 rupees, I drafted all the documents for their business. It took me over a month to do that. I prepared their NDAs, the third-party contracts, the internal agreements, and whatnot. Like all the policies, the leave policy, the termination policy. I drafted everything for 8,000 rupees. And at that point of time, I didn't even ask for that. So after I did the work, the founder of the company was known to me. He was very happy with the work, and he offered me to keep this money. So in especially in the legal field, it's not about the money in the initial stages. It's more about learning. It's more about developing your skills. And once you develop your skills and once you have an understanding about the entire process, it makes it easier for you to earn money in the later stages. Money comes as a result of your skills. If you just focus on money and if you don't give results, then and if you don't keep yourself updated with the recent changes, then it will be very difficult for you.
Right. So, since you started working 2 3 years ago, do you have like any important learnings from your mistakes you committed before?
I have honestly made a lot of mistakes because I started working as a law student and I had very little experience in this field, and also being a first generation lawyer of my family, I don't have anyone to back me up that no, you don't have to do these things. So whatever knowledge we had it from our faculties and from our college and all. But when I actually started working in this, for businesses and all, one of the very big mistakes that I made that I can think of is focusing too much on the laws. Like when I used to draft agreements or when I used to talk to the clients about the problems that they are facing, I used to focus too much on the laws and very little on the business or the client's requirements. And today, when I look back at it, it's one of the very big mistakes that I made, because when not just in the commercial field but in the entire field of law, it is very important to first understand the client's requirements and what is the problem that the client is facing, and only after that you should propose a solution to that problem, or you should go ahead with suggesting your client what to do. And as a young lawyer, I used to deal with all the provisions and laws that were related to the business, but I gave very little focus to what the client's business is, what is their business model, who are they dealing with, and and only after understanding the business and the business model of the client, you will be able to foresee the kind of problems that they might face in the future, or the people that they are going to deal with. So, along with your legal understanding, you should also understand about the client, about the business first. And only after understanding about the business, you should apply laws to it. That way, you will be able to solve that problem in a much better way. And you can kind of minimize the disputes that might come up in the future. So, this mistake I made in my past, and I would really want everyone to understand that it's not just about laws because you're a lawyer. It's also about the other person and the person that you're dealing with.
You have done your LLB from UPES Dehradun. So this is one university that I have heard which have unique courses like LLB with computer science and BTech or energy technology and things like that. So how was your experience there, like in the college? Did anything there happen helped you to build interest in startups and corporate laws?
Yes, so I have done my BBA LLB with specialization in corporate laws from UPES, and they have courses like specialization in energy laws, taxation laws, and IPR, cyber laws, and they have specialization in the undergraduate courses. So yes, it has definitely helped me to get more understanding about the corporate laws, because as a part of our education, we study some additional subjects related to our specialization. So we will anyway study the basic subjects that are there, but we'll study the additional subjects related to our specialization. For example, if I am a corporate law student, then I'll study some additional subjects related to corporate law. And same goes with the other fields also. So yes, it helps you to develop a more deeper understanding about the subject. And when you have a deeper understanding about the subject, you naturally tend to have an inclination towards that particular subject. So yeah, that has helped me to uh, develop my interest towards startup laws, or corporate laws in general. But a lot of credit for my interest towards startups and entrepreneurship goes to the e-cell of my college, like the entrepreneurship cell of my college. So I was very actively involved with the startup events and the competitions that were organized by the e-cell. And I used to participate in them. And because I was surrounded with founders all the time, the people who are always talking about identifying a problem and then solving it, and very enthusiastic about it also. So because of all these things, I could also understand the kinds of issues that they were facing. They used to do all the research about the market. They used to uh, focus on their business, prepare a very good business model, but they used to focus very little on the legalities, and they had no idea about a lot of things that they should have an idea about. So I kind of saw this problem, and I started in a friendly way talking to these startups and entrepreneurs that, yeah, do read about this, or you should know about this. And that's how it also helped me to build my interest towards it. So in addition to the course that I had, the ESL of my college also helped me to get a little better understanding about the startups, and helped me to develop my interest in this field.
So this is one like a good thing in UPS then, that they have this ESL. Can you tell us more about what type of activities and events are there, which you were talking about?
Yes, yes. In the ESL, they keep organizing events like business conclave. They organize startup weekends, like the Google Techstars Startup Weekend was the first event that I attended in the college, that was related to the entrepreneurship. So it's a fun event where you go on a Friday, and then till Sunday you have to prepare the entire business model. You have to build a business, and there are panel discussions that keep happening where a lot of successful founders and people from the industry, they come and they give talks about the startups and entrepreneurship. There are sessions, there are online sessions that goes with it. There are special sessions for women entrepreneurs, because we know that there is a very little participation of women in terms of entrepreneurship. And apart from that, in addition to organizing it themselves, they also educate and aware the students about the events that are happening outside the college also. Like I went to the Vibrant Gujarat Startup and Technology Summit, and that also I got to know from my college. And there was this event where they had the association of iCreate, the International Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology. It's in Gujarat. So they had this association with them, and now the events related to iCreate were also, promoted in the college. And I also did one acceleration program for startups from International Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology. So yeah, once you are involved with eCell, they keep you informed about various things that are happening in terms of entrepreneurship, in addition to the events that they organize themselves.
And these events are like university events. It's not like for students.
No, there are state events also. There are state events also, like the Google Techstars.
No, I mean, I asked this because it's not specifically for students of a particular course. Like it's accessible.
No. It's not like that. It's open for everybody. And in fact, the first event that I went to, the startup weekend that I'm talking about, I was the only law student there. Everybody else was from the engineering background, making some fancy products and technology, trying to solve a really brilliant problem of the market. And I had some really crazy business idea at that point of time. I just went and
Can you share
I was
that?
just,
I'm curious now.
yeah, absolutely. It will take a long time. I hope you won't get bored of it.
Just in brief, what was the product about and how did it go?
Well, I was trying to digitize the court cases. As in, I saw lawyers and all with that cause list in their hands and running around in court. Like they don't know when is the hearing going to start and all that. So I was trying to build a system where they can automatically get to know which case is listed on which date and when is it listed, what is the matter related to, a summary of it. So we were trying to build something on that lines, but that didn't work out.
So in other events, were there any other law students competing with you?
Now there is a very active participation of law students in ECEL. When I started going to the ECEL, I think I was the only person, or there were one or two more people there. But mostly, I was the only one from the law college, and because I had this legal understanding, I used to come across as a very knowledgeable kind of person. But yeah, nowadays it's very law students are very actively getting involved with the ECEL, and they are building things their own.
When I was in college, I had no idea about all these things. So yeah, people are gradually adopting these things.
Yeah, it's important. Like with coming technology, it's very important to keep yourself updated with these things. And
Yeah.
now students are coming up with really good ideas, also in terms of law. One student was actually building like an internship platform for students, because you know how difficult getting an internship in the legal field is, right?
Yeah,
so he was doing something like that. There was another person who was working on automating the contracts things or something like that. So it's interesting to see people working and trying out new things. Now it also depends on how commercially viable the thing is, and also if it is actually practical or not, because there are a few things that only a human can do, a machine cannot replace it. So yeah, I mean, it's good that people are taking initiative. That is the most important thing.
Right.
And yeah, now students are doing it. It's really nice.
Okay. So over to our last question. Please share an incident from your career which is very memorable to you.
Is this the last question?
Yeah. Do you want more questions to be asked?
Now I'm feeling bad. Now I'm feeling bad.
Sure, we'll have another episode to cover more questions.
Absolutely. So the good incidents. I think for me, the most memorable thing about the college or about the work life today is when clients are happy with your work. When you submit your project to the client, and when clients give you heads up that this is what they wanted, and this this is helping them to crack a deal, or maybe building their business or something, I feel really good about it, because I feel that I made a very little contribution towards building a business. So whenever someone appreciates my work, or whenever I get a good feedback from someone, I really find it very amusing and very memorable to me. I till date remember all the feedbacks that I have. I've written a note of it, and I've kept it in my diary also.
Oh,
so it motivates me. Like when I feel very low or something, I just go ahead and I read it once again. So yeah, that's a memorable and happy thing to me.
Yeah. And if you want to pick up one incident, I think that matter, like which you worked on, all the documents of that one company, and at the end of the work, you got that 8,000 check.
Yeah.
So that
Absolutely.
was one.
I was very underconfident at that point of time. I was not even sure if I'll be able to do it, but I just took the work anyway. I was like, "Karna chaho to kya nahi ho sakta hai" type of ideology I had.
Yeah.
So I read around 50 to 100 contracts, including everything. and then copy pasting things and understanding what all things are there, then putting it in one place. And I really worked hard on that. And because of that hard work only, things became easier for me gradually. So yeah, that is one incident that I'll never forget.
Great. Thanks, Bhavna, for this amazing conversation and sharing your experience with us. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you like this episode, if this episode added some value to you, then please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. And also check out the other episodes available here. And follow us here for getting notified about new episodes. Thank you.